The ideal location for a weekly update, but I've got some time to kill. I'm at the hospital currently waiting to get some blood tests, so I'm just about to go and get that done, but I thought I'm going to do a quick intro into this week, what's happening with my training, because it hasn't happened. I've done zero training since last week, Monday's interval run, and that's all down to my thyroid. So it's not a new issue. I'm guessing it's my thyroid because of the symptoms I've had, and I know I suffer with Graves' disease anyway. So for those of you that don't know what that is, I've basically got a hyperactive thyroid, and it really, if you do know, it knocks you. So when it is playing up, it really affects you. So from a fatigue point of view mainly, so all I do is sleep. I'm just constantly tired. I feel terribly weak all the time. I've got upset stomach. I feel nauseous. It's absolutely horrible. So it almost stopped me when I first diagnosed with it. That almost put a stop to my triathlon in totality. But I got over it at the step before I was diagnosed. I just thought I was dying, to be honest, and that wasn't an exaggeration. So then I got diagnosed. I knew what it was. Got medicated. Was fixed. Came off the medication in December, and they told me there was a 50% chance of relapse, and unfortunately I think the time is now, and it couldn't come at a worse time with my two biggest races of my triathlon career, if we can call it that. But I've got, as you know, my Team GB race coming up, and then Ironman World Champs, and I'm 7 weeks out of the GB race and I'm unable to train. So I'm going to go in, get my bloods done. Let's hope maybe it was just a bug, I don't know, and it's just a mad coincidence, but we'll see. I won't know until I've had the bloods done and the specialist gets hold of me. So I'm going to get back in there and I'll go into a bit more detail about what's going on. Okay, so I've had my blood tests done now. I've got to wait a couple of days to get my results. So although I'm feeling pretty good today, I thought, let me just go into what happened last week. So if you watch last week's video, you'll see I had some intervals. I wasn't feeling 100% on the day, but I was still decent numbers. It wasn't what I was expecting, and I thought it could be for a number of different reasons. One of them being that I haven't trained for a long time, and that was probably the main one, where I hadn't done proper intervals outside. The weather was warmer. I hadn't been sleeping great. But anyway, let's talk about my thyroid. So that is what I reckon 99% of the issue actually is. So following the run on Monday, I just got progressively worse as the day went on. So like I said, I wasn't feeling great, but I couldn't really pinpoint what was wrong, and I had a slight headache. So as the day went on, my headache just got progressively worse. I was super fatigued, a lot more than what I should have been from an hour run, regardless of the intervals that were within that run. So anyway, Tuesday, that was it. I had an awful headache. I mean, it was blinding. And I do suffer with migraines, so I thought maybe I just had a migraine. I was taking my migraine tablets that I'm prescribed. They didn't help. I was aching all over. I didn't have a sore throat or anything, and it was mainly the headache, aching all over, just feeling generally really weak and terrible, if that makes sense. And each day just got progressively worse. And then I had an upset stomach, and it was crazy. And sorry to go into that sort of detail, but I'd rather just share everything with you in terms of how I'm feeling and the symptoms with it. So training just wasn't an option, regardless of whether I wanted to. I was just constantly sleeping. If I sat down, I fell asleep. So the fatigue is a huge symptom of it. And when I tell you sleep, I mean, so you get a lot of broken sleep is what I'm saying, but you're constantly tired. And I mean, crazy tired, like you've never been tired before. So what was really interesting though, and I think I touched on, I can't remember if I touched on one of the videos or my Instagram or what, anyway, I'm going to go into it now because I think this was a key factor or not key factor, but some interesting bits from it. So my Whoop. Now I was supposed to do a whole video on this, and I think this is maybe as good as time as ever to do one, because the Whoop started telling me that my body temperature was elevated, which could mean increase in training load where I'm not recovering enough, which wasn't it. I knew it wasn't because I wasn't in a sort of huge block of training, so I knew it wasn't that. It said potentially an increase in core temperature, in temperature outside, which increases your core temperature. Anyway, there was a bit of an increase in temperature, but nothing significant, and I cope quite well in the heat, and it's killing me that the weather was so great and I wasn't able to train, and I actually enjoy training, in particular running in the heat. So I didn't think it was that. Then I thought potentially COVID. It could be COVID, and so we did a load of COVID tests, and I got my wife to give me some COVID tests. I got some COVID tests done, and they all came back negative, and I did this over a few days, so I knew it wasn't COVID then, and we just couldn't really pinpoint it. And then it wasn't until sort of, I think it was Thursday or Friday, I was at my absolute worst. I just couldn't move. I really struggled, and I remember being in this place about 18 months ago when I first got unwell, and I didn't realize what was going on. The only difference, that there was two key differences. So the main one, when I knew something was massively wrong, apart from how I was feeling the same this week, if that makes sense at all. Hopefully it does. But I had a massive spike in my heart rate, resting heart rate. I mean, it was, I can't remember exactly, but I think it was going up to about 180 at resting. It was just ridiculous, my heart rate. And I'd also lost 9 kilograms over 2 or 3 weeks. So massive weight loss as well. And I mean, it was huge in terms of visuals. And just looking at me, you could just see I had nothing, no weight. I run pretty lean anyway, but it's that just knocked me even more. So I think I even got down to about 72 kilograms at the time, so which is massive for me because I run sort of average at around sort of between 78 and 80, depending on what I'm trying to do. Racing weight, I try and get to 78, and I get there pretty easily. So anyway, that is what happened. And I was just lying there, and I was this headache, and I had all these ice packs over me. I couldn't move. I was aching all over. My stomach was burning, and I thought, you've been here before, and I think it's your thyroid. And I messaged my wife and said, I think it's the thyroid, and she said she was thinking exactly the same. So anyway, I phoned the doctors, and because I couldn't get on and go on like that anymore. And I very rarely go to the doctors. My wife really has to beg me to go. I don't know why. It's just, I don't feel I need to. I feel I've got a good immune system, and I recover quite quickly, generally speaking, and I try and just leave the doctors be. So anyway, I phoned up, and I've now been sent in to have my bloods. I'll have my results in a couple of days. See, now today I'm feeling, obviously in this video you can see, I'm not as man down as what I was last week, where I couldn't even move off the sofa. So this is crazy. So although I'm fine today, so fingers crossed, and I really hope it was a bug, and it was just a huge coincidence in terms of the symptoms and how related they were, but I don't know. Let's see. I did go to the gym this morning because I wanted to start building some strength up, because unfortunately if it is my thyroid, I lose a lot of strength as a result. And I went to the gym today. Now I know I've been unwell for a week, and today was my first day back training, but I just felt really weak, and my throat, well, sort of in where your thyroid is, it was aching a bit, and that is again one of the symptoms. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm hoping it was just the case of getting back into the things. I'm going to try and go for a run later today, hopefully see how I'm feeling after work, and if I can get to go and run, just do a half an hour just to see and gauge, because that was a massive sign that the last time, just before it all went horribly wrong, I went for a run, and that's when I just felt weak, and I was at the peak, at my peak fitness, and I went for a 3-mile run, 5K, and I thought I was going to die. And again, that explains sort of the heart rate and everything else. So there's a lot to it. So if it is my thyroid, it's going to be a huge problem in terms of getting to my race in Spain for GB age group team, but also World Champs. Either way, I'm doing both. One, because I've invested a lot of time into doing it, and a lot of money, especially for World Champs. The GB race, not so much, but World Champs, definitely. It's just way too much money not to be able to go now. I'm not throwing that away. So what it might be, and this is the thing, and don't get me wrong, I'm not promoting, because I'm very much, again, I've learnt my lessons in terms of when you're injured or unwell, do not push it, because that's when things can really go wrong. However, what the plan, I'm going to see how it goes over the next week or two in terms of training, but also then what I will do is those races, unfortunately for me anyway, are going to just be very big training days, and I'm going to take it easy. And when I say that, I genuinely mean it, because I'm probably going to have no choice but to. It's just a case of getting round rather than getting any sort of PBs, which is a shame, because I wanted to go into those two races and really give it my best. But I'm at the peak of my build for the GB race anyway, and I've already now lost a week. And I know that a lot of you will say that, you know, a week's neither here nor there, and the recovery's probably done you well. But the trouble is, I wasn't, you know, I've had a lot of recovery up to it. So I'd only just started my building, and now I've lost that week. And the fact that I'm going to have to build up slowly again means I would lose a next 2 or 3 weeks potentially as well. If I have to go back onto my thyroid medicine, that will mean even more, just potentially maybe not even training for a bit. But if I am able to train, it's going to be very light training and just sort of ticking over, which again, it's not how you want to prepare for a race, especially if you're going in there to do well and to get a PB. So let's see, I'll keep you updated. Not the news I was hoping to come out with this week, but on the positive, you know, I'm here, I'm able to still train and be active at now anyway, and it sort of really puts things into perspective. That week where I wasn't able to do anything, and I literally, it didn't matter what you did, I wasn't able to train. You know, there's £1 million on my bike, and said, you just get on the bike, you can have it. I wasn't getting there because I just physically couldn't. So anyway, bit of a long-winded explanation. If you've got any questions on it, or you're suffering with any issues on your thyroid potentially, or something, and how I manage that and train, just let me know. Appreciate you watching, and I'll keep you updated with how things go. And hopefully the next video will be a lot more positive. See you soon.